Great. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to our presentation today. Go in here. Okay, good. So one of the things that we were just talking about here a moment ago is, just being prepared to do our Zoom. I'm Ingrid Sullivan with Senior Downsizing Experts, and today you're attending the Smart Senior Seminar called Be Smart about selling your home. And some of the things that we want to get started with, which we were talking about with our group, if you will look in the bottom left-hand corner, if you're on your computer, there should be a microphone there that probably has a red cross through the top, that red line, which is for mute. And I think that Debbie, can you mute some people from your end as well? So yes. If you're not muted or you're not sure how to do that, she may mute you. Also, if you look in the top left-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see the word either gallery view or speaker view, and you want to be in the speaker view so that you'll be able to see not everybody that's here today, but see the presentation. So take a minute to get set up for that. And then also a couple of things for you to keep in mind. This is just kind of some housekeeping before we get started. Hang in there with us today because we're going to have a drawing at the end. So we're recording everybody's name that's come into our seminar today. And at the end of the seminar, we're going to have a drawing. And we'll make sure whoever the winners are, that will get you your prize. We'll send that out to you in the mail, but you have to be present to win. And also, because we're not doing this live, we love doing these seminars live. And I talked to someone today that said, I can't wait till we can get back together person to person again. But for right now, we're doing it through Zoom, and we're trying to shorten our content somewhat because we're watching it on our computer versus being somewhere. So we're going to have time for questions. We'll make sure that you have an opportunity to do that. And as you can see on your screen, there's a picture of what we call the toolbar at the bottom. And there's a red circle around a little icon called chat. So that'll be the place as things come up during the presentation that you want to make sure you get answered. When we call for questions, you can go ahead and type that in advance, and Debbie will see those in the end, and we'll follow through and make sure that we get your questions answered. And then for those of you that are going to be on Facebook, the same thing, we'll be watching for your questions. If for some reason there's something that comes up that you're not able to get answered today, or you really need to have a little bit more detail, I want you to know that our presenters today will be available to you for questions, and we'll be sure to provide their phone numbers and email addresses in the end. So I'd like to just real quick introduce my team. As I said before, I'm Ingrid Sullivan. I am with the Sullivan & Sullivan Real Estate team and Senior Downsizing Experts, which has been our company now for a little over 10 years. When John and I started being more specific in our real estate business and specializing in the 55+ niche. I have John Sullivan, who is going to be one of our guest panelists today. He is another realtor on our team. He's my partner in life and my partner in business. Debbie Ford, who is on with us today, and Debbie will be answering your questions or calling for questions later and doing our drawing. Debbie's our operations manager, and she's responsible for putting a lot of these things together that we're doing for you via Zoom or live seminars. We're very appreciative of her helping us. And then we have Patrick Sullivan. So now we're Sullivan, and Sullivan. And Patrick joined our team just a year ago, this past August 8th. And he came in as our listing manager, client care manager. So he helps when we go out and do a consultation with someone that really is thinking about moving into something different. And he helps us with identifying contractors that can come out and help for various reasons, depending upon what the client wants. But recently, He's also gotten his real estate license. So he is now the third realtor on the Sullivan and Sullivan real estate team, assisting with first-time home buyers, in addition to working with our clientele as well. We have Scott Lewis is here with us today. Scott is with A Action Realty, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself here in just a few moments. But A Action Realty is one of many inspection companies that are out there. It's one of the #1 inspection companies that help buyers when they're getting ready to buy a home. We do a lot of referrals to them when we have someone in need. And Scott was so kind to actually share a lot of the slides that we have today and help us put this presentation together. So we want to thank you for doing that, Scott. I mentioned that John Sullivan is also here as a presenter and from the real estate side, because when you're looking at selling your house, whether it means you're going to sell it by yourself or you're going to sell it through a real estate company, it's important to know somebody that knows about the needs from all aspects. So we're going to be looking at several different perspectives. We're going to look at several different things through different perspectives today regarding what you should know or how you can be smart when it comes to selling your home. So let's go ahead and get started. You know, from your point of view as the seller, your home is a castle. You love it. It's beautiful. You've done as much as you could with it to make it beautiful to live in and enjoyable. You may have done upgrades, as you can see here in this beautiful kitchen. For an appraiser, keeping this in mind, that in most real estate transactions, an appraiser is involved, and the appraiser is the one that has what we like to say, the last word on the price of the house, what condition it's in, whether or not you've been good and taken care of it, or is it outdated? So they have a different point of view than you as the seller. The buyer of your home, the next homeowner that is going to be considering your home, they're going to be looking at it to see how big it is and will their furniture fit. So it's important that you have things laid out in your house that will identify the space that you have to offer. Can they raise their children there? What are the schools like in the area? How much is it going to cost them to fix something that they see needs to be repaired that maybe you haven't taken care of prior to putting your house on the market? What if they want to update it? What if they want to update your kitchen or your bathroom? How much is it going to cost? And of course, because everything's all about negotiations, they're always looking to see if there's a way that they can renegotiate that price with you. And it's important for us to know that going into it. Even if we're in a market that's more seller driven than it is buyers, they're always looking for a deal. And you would be too. From the inspector's point of view, now we're looking at something different. The inspector has guidelines that he has to adhere to. And he's coming in, typically he's coming in as a service provider to the buyer. They're paying for his services. And in all honesty, they're paying him to find something that they can negotiate with you on your property. So I'm going to go ahead and have Scott introduce himself, tell us a little bit about his background, and tell us why his role is important.
My name is Scott Lewis. I'm with A Action Realty Inspection Services, and I've been a home inspector for a little over 10 years now. And we service DFW, and we do all types of inspections, from regular home inspections to stucco inspections to EIFS inspections, sprinkler, pool, foundation reading. So we do it all. When you do an inspection, the guidelines we have to follow is we have to follow the Texas Real Estate Commission, or the TREC, and we have a standardized report and what they call the standards of practice. So the items that we must report on, and that's the minimum standard. So as an inspector, you can go above the minimum standards, but you can't go below. Also in an inspection, you know, what we find is it's a condition of the property. So it's not a code-based inspection. And a lot of people make that mistake and think I'm inspecting on code. When you do an inspection, not everything in the report has to be repaired, or none of it has to be repaired. That's just something that a negotiation between the buyer and the seller, or if the seller's doing any inspection, if they decide to fix it or not. And then whoever pays, the person that pays for the inspection is the person that ordered the inspection. So if you're buying or selling a home, let's say you're the sellers, the buyer of the home that would pay for it, the seller would not have to.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. That's good to know. So, one of the things that I see on your slide is the inspector and expert. Are you the expert in those big things that we always like to talk about, the roof, the foundation, the electrical, the plumbing, etc.?
So we're not an HVAC tech, so we're not like an expert, but we do have knowledge of all items that's required to do an inspection. So yes, we know more than most, a normal person would know about the HVAC system, the plumbing, electrical, roof, and foundation.
Okay.
But as an expert, no, we're not an expert.
Okay. And do you have to go through very much, is there training that you have to go through to do this?
Yeah, there is. You have to pass a state test. So you have to be licensed by the state. And then there's a schooling that you have to go through. And it's roughly 428 hours of schooling.
Oh.
Most of it's online, but about 50 hours of it has to be in classroom.
Okay. Okay. Well, Scott, as we move forward in our presentation here, there's, as we have here, here are some ways to avoid a train wreck before it happens. So I would say in this particular case, what you have listed for us here is know what to expect. So can you tell us just a little bit about that?
So, know what to expect. Expect the inspector to be there, a good 2 or 3 hours, depending on the size of the home. Your inspector to look through every, closet, open and turn on and turn off every light, run the heater, run the air conditioner, open the panel box, run the garage, open and close the garage doors. So, we inspect everything from the roof to the foundation, and everything in between. So just, expect the inspector to go in every room of the house, open all the blinds, open all the windows. So if you have a security system that alerts you when you have the window that goes up and down, you're going to be getting a lot of alerts.
That's good to know. That's good to know. And John, where it says proper disclosure documents, what does that mean?
Well, when you put your home on the market, one of the documents that you need to address is called the seller's disclosure, and it's required in most real estate transactions. And basically, it asks what type of things you have in your house, like is the heating electric or gas? Do you have air conditioning? And then it also asks you to disclose anything that you know is not working properly, or just, let's say you had foundation damage or need of repair and you had it done, you should disclose that information. The buyer gets to look at it and they sign off and acknowledge that they received it. And kind of one of the sayings in the real estate industry, if you're not honest and don't disclose it, your neighbor will disclose it to the new buyer. So it's important that you're accurate and disclose. And the number one thing that causes lawsuits in a real estate transaction is the seller's disclosure or lack of disclosure.
Okay. Okay, that's good. So, like the two of them are saying there, know what to expect. We're going to talk a little bit more as we go forward about repair, remove, and replace, but you're preparing your home for visits, if you will, from buyers that are going to be scheduling showings, as well as inspectors that are going to be coming to look at the equipment and the running of your home, if you will, as you're getting your buyer. So moving forward, we've got Scott. Tell us a little bit about this slide that we have here.
So, as a homeowner, I know a lot of people live in their house for 10, 20 years. They raise their children, And as a homeowner, you know, items in the home or mechanical systems in the home get a little older. You know, a lot of times if you get comfortable in the home, you tend to overlook certain items. You know, the floor's damaged here or there, the paint. And then building codes change every 3 years. So like I said, the inspection is not a code inspection, but the standards of practice require us to report on certain items that would be a code change. So, you know, get prepared that if the house is older, there's going to be a lot of code related items reported in the report. And then it's mentioned before the standards of practice, and in the report you'll see where it says as built, meaning when the home was built, it was built to the code, and then the codes have changed. So keep that in mind as well. But not all houses are perfect, and I find something in every house.
Yeah, yeah, even new builds.
Even today, new build, sink
New
leaks.
builds. So I think what he's trying to tell us there is that his job is to find those things. It's not necessarily your job to take care of all of them, but there will be some things that will be important for you to take care of. So, you know, it's not personal. And that's what's really important. Be prepared. Like we said earlier, don't get your feelings hurt. A good realtor is going to let you know that an inspector is going to come through there with a fine-tooth comb, and they're looking for things because the buyer has paid them for that inspection. Or it may be you that has done that, but don't take it personal. As he said, you know, there's things that over time you don't even remember. The floors always creak there and you don't even hear it anymore. But it may be an indication of something that needs to be addressed. Depersonalize your home the best that you can. People are coming through to look at your house to see what it would be like for them to live there, not necessarily what it's like when they come and visit you. So take your pictures down because you're moving. Those things that are special to you that could easily be picked up, you want to pack them away. That's really important. Decluttering, we had that seminar not too long ago called Cut the Clutter. The best thing you can do for yourself is to make your home feel spacious, because that's what buyers are looking for. They want to be able to navigate through your house easily. So John, talk to us about this list that we have here in front of us. Where does this come from? What does that mean?
Well, we put together a list of, you know, possible average cost, and the longer you own your home, the more likely it is you're going to have to do some of these things or a lot of these things. Probably most of us that own a home for any amount of time have had the roof replaced at least once, especially in our area with the severe weather that we have. We're also in an area where foundations typically move and there needs to be repair. But the thing to do is keep up with your home and not ignore things. And people tend to ignore things, or sometimes they estimate that it's going to cost too much, and so they ignore things. But as you live, the longer you live in your home, probably a lot of these things on this list you have already done or will have to do in the future.
Yeah, thank you. So then we come to this screen, which we kind of alluded to earlier on when Scott was talking about a home inspector, the 3 R's. John, could you briefly give us an overview on this, and then Scott, maybe delve in there a little more?
Well, if you're preparing to sell your home, you look at things, take care of the little items, repair the little things, you know, like leaky faucets, or if your tub or sinks drain slowly, maybe it's just a matter of using some drain opener or the plunger on them. A lot of times, the longer toilets have been sitting in place, they need to be tightened up a little bit. The weather we have, the extremes heat and cold and wind can damage the siding and things, or the paint finally gets worn out. Those are little things you can do before you put your home on the market.
Right.
If there's something that's defective, you might want to remove it and remove or replace, certainly, and damaged fencing and that type of thing. And if you have things that aren't working, like a fan fixture or a light, that
Or
a light
doorbell.
bulb won't fix, you probably want to consider replacing it because it's going to come up to the buyer. And sooner or later, you'll have to do it. Or in some cases, if it's a major item, somebody may not be able to get a loan and buy the house unless it's taken care of.
Great. Thank you. Scott, what do you want to add to that?
So, you know, as an inspector side, we check all the faucets, tubs, and everything for slow draining. And like, you know, slow draining sometimes is just taking the P-trap off and cleaning it, or, you know, running a snake down it. And it's just something that doesn't want to come up in a report. The longer the report or the more items, you know, to a buyer's eye, sometimes it looks like it's not a great house, even though it could be. You know, for like inoperative fans, if you have a room fan that doesn't work, take the fan down and just put a regular light fixture up, you know, because if the fan doesn't work, I have to report it. But if there's no fan, there's nothing against not having fans in your house. So, you know, there's certain items that you can get rid of without it hurting the inspection or, you know, the buyer in any way. But, you know, inoperative water heaters and HVAC equipment, that's something that you're going to want to take care of, because that's coming up on the report regardless. And sometimes if you've already showed that you've done it, it looks better on the buyer's eyes, saying that you actually, you know, were taking care of your home rather than neglecting it.
You know,
That's a
you've
good
mentioned
point.
a couple of times HVAC, and for those of us that are in this business, we kind of recognize that term, but for our audience, what does that mean?
HVAC is heating, ventilating, air conditioning equipment. So it's what you use to cool and heat your house.
Okay, great. Great. All right, well, let's go ahead and move forward then. So, you know, the basics, this is what's important. And we've talked about this on several occasions. Your buyer's looking for something that we like to call move-in ready. They want to open that door, bring their things in there, and live their life. They don't want to have to come in and fix. If there are things that they're having to fix, they are looking at a price that commands that, which is typically less. So if you can work that out with them, or you can get some of those things taken care of so that the first look makes it look appealing, that's going to be great. You know, it says right here, it says sellers should be willing to make some basic improvements. Nobody's saying you have to completely remodel your house. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but some of those things that we'll be discussing can actually help you to get a better price for your home. This next slide that we have here. So most buyers, is it necessary to update the home? Just like I was talking about, most buyers want a house that's called move-in ready. So the quickest thing the quick example I could give you is if the house next door, let's say at the end of your block, is on the market and it's $5,000 more than what you're putting your house on the market for, but they've upgraded the flooring or the windows or the roof is new, those kinds of things, and the buyer walks into your house and says, oh gosh, I've got to fix the flooring. This is old carpet here. I need to go out and buy it. I'll have to do that first. I'm going to have to paint it. Sometimes they're going to be willing to pay that extra money because it's move-in ready. So be thinking like that. When you're working with a real estate professional, they're going to help you determine what are the things that I can get the biggest bang out of for the amount of money that I've set aside. You know, the more interior work a prospective buyer has to do, the less they're interested in buying the house or paying your price. So keep that in mind. There's some areas that are really important, which we'll talk about here in just a moment, that can bring you a higher price. So John, talk about this. Talk about the importance of updates.
Yeah, most people know that the big two rooms that buyers are looking at are the kitchen and bathrooms. They really want them updated to current standards. And I will tell you that appraisers also look at those type of things. When they compare the pricing to other homes, when they're making their evaluation on the value of your home, they consider, is it updated to current standards? And you don't necessarily have to pay somebody for a $50,000 kitchen remodel or bath remodel, but you can do some simple things that bring it up a lot. And also, if you're going to be living there a couple more years, maybe it's updating to things you would enjoy. I mean, Ingrid and I just did some updates in our house last year, and we're going to finish them out this year to kind of bring it up to current standards and things that we wanted too. And it makes our house more sellable if we ever decide to do that.
Talk about these kitchen appliances.
Well, yeah, I mean, when Scott does an inspection, number one, if they don't work, it's going to be reported. Yeah, I think that stove is a little beyond cleaning. It may need to be replaced. So those are good things. And again, if your dishwasher's not working properly or draining, you probably need to have it replaced. And a lot of times you can buy appliances same as cash for 6 or 12 months. And you know what? If you're going to list, I know it was a big deal just to get a new sink in our house for a kitchen sink with a new garbage disposal. It just made a whole lot of difference in the way we felt and something that worked better. I mean, our garbage disposal still worked, but it was nice to have a new one, you know. Same way when we bought a range and things. So if it's something you can enjoy and it also adds some value to the house, it's probably a good decision.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, I know for a lot of you, you're probably not using your dishwasher as much as you have in the past. Some people even use their dishwasher just to dry dishes. But keeping in mind, he is going to be running that dishwasher when he comes to look at your house for that buyer. So it's a good time to clean it out and make sure that it smells good inside and that it's been run at least recently so that you'll know ahead of time if there's going to be a problem there. How about talking to us about the bathroom, the grout here, John? Why is that important?
Well, it mainly demonstrates good maintenance. And a lot of times, you know, we have people, you know, do a really deep, thorough cleaning on it and clean that grout. And certainly sometimes if it's coming out, you might need a handyman to come regrout it, or the caulking around tub and showers. That stuff needs to be taken care of every few years. It just doesn't last and deteriorates. It also leads to leaking, which can, you know, I've seen houses that just because it wasn't caulked recently, it leaks into the drywall and the wood around it. Then you've got a big problem of wood rot and things, and those will come up in inspections as well.
Right, right. And fixtures. I mean, there's a couple of things that we can relate to here. John, if you would just share a little bit with us and let Scott talk more about these particular pictures, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, what Ingrid says relate to it. The bottom right picture, we last year, I said we had our kitchen, and so we had new countertops and sink, and so they had to redo the plumbing, and they didn't do a very good job. And one day we're under our pulling out something cleaner from under the sink, and we noticed that there's like a little lake under our sink. So, and actually it took a plumber a couple times to get it right, to be fixed. So just those type of things, leaky fixtures, all those things are going to come up in an inspection. And so the little things lead to big things if you don't take care of them.
That's right. That's right. And Scott, why do some of these things matter to you when you're looking at this? I mean, clearly, if you turn on the faucet and it's spraying like that, that's something to get anybody's attention. But why are these things important when you're doing an inspection?
Well, number one, leaks don't ever fix themselves, and they always get bigger. So if you have a leaky faucet or it leaks at the handle in the shower, you know, you got to look at the bigger picture. Let's say it's leaking in the handle. Well, where's the water going? Some of it's coming out into the shower, but is the other part going behind the wall? You know, ruin the drywall, the tile starts popping loose because of the water, you know, and then slow draining sinks, you know, a lot of times it's just from hair in the bathroom, but it could mean that the main line under the house could possibly be clogged, or, I mean, tree root growing through it, you know. So we always it's like a big puzzle, and we always put it together. So we got to look at more than one piece. You know, people see a leaky faucet and they say, oh, just change the faucet, but is it really that, or is it bigger, you know, bigger behind it?
Right.
So,
right. Well, and I think for those people that are.
Just one thing I want to, about the faucets, something that comes up in inspection reports, and this actually happened in one of our properties, and it was almost a brand new house. not enough water pressure in some of the faucets. It turned out it was just a defective faucet. It's not a big, huge plumbing thing, but little things like that. And we had the same thing in our kitchen faucet. The water pressure just started going down, and we're going, oh my gosh, this is going to be expensive. And it turns out it was just to replace the faucet.
Right, right. You know, like I mentioned earlier, if you are empty nesters and you're still in a bigger home and you're not using all of the bathrooms, for example, in your home, it's not a bad idea to, you know, turn on the shower over there and see the one that the people come when you have company, your kids come maybe, turn it on and see if there's anything leaking there. Check to see if the drains are draining properly, because they're going to be looking for that and you won't know until that time. So John, talk to us about first impressions, especially when it comes to the outside of the home. Why is that important?
Well, it's the first thing that a buyer sees when they walk up. And a lot of times that can determine whether they want the house or not. They can fall in love with the way that it looks on the outside, or they can almost say, I really don't even want to go into the house. And so, and as realtors, when we're accompanying our buyers, we've got our real estate eyes on, and we're making decisions. So I'm going to say it probably several times today. Fresh paint does wonders to interior and exterior. It's one of the least expensive things you can do to pep up your house.
Right.
You don't have to have the yard of the month, but a nicely kept lawn with some flowers in it, and mulch works wonders too in the beds.
So here's another another slide that we want to address. From the realtor point of view, John, what do you think about the looks of the pictures that we have here?
Well, you either need to go out and do some weeding and mowing and trimming, or hire somebody to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And here again, you know, there was a time that you may have done your own yard. Some people still do. Or you have somebody that you've hired to do it. But some of the things that we're seeing in these pictures are going to be concerns and to Scott. And Scott, why are those important?
Well, a few reasons. One, the bushes up against the house could be conducive to termites or carpenter ants, and it will harbor carpenter ants and termites. Also, the root system can actually damage the mortar and the brick. And next thing you know, you have loose bricks. You know, it could draw water for many reasons, you know, but one of the biggest reasons is the conducive conditions for termites and carpenter ants. You would never know with that if you ever had carpenter ants until you saw them inside the house.
Oh, good point.
So you can't see them from the outside.
That's a good point. And, you know, we see that a lot. A lot of times people's entire side of the house is engulfed in ivy. Or I know that for us on our inspections, a lot of times it comes up that the hedge needs to be trimmed, and we're always wondering, why is that so important? Yeah. So how about this, John? What do you want to say to us about the first impressions again on the exterior?
Yeah, just like I said before, you know, nice flowers or mulching to make the beds look nice and keep them nice and trimmed. You just don't want a wild forest growing in most places.
And then here again, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, again, fresh paint is the thing, and or maybe a more current color, or really try to avoid outrageous standout colors. You may love it, but the more neutral you go, the better for buyers.
Right. And if you haven't treated yourself to a new front door for a while, sometimes that's a nice thing to look at. Or if it's weathered because your house is facing where the sun sets. Here again, remember, that's people are coming in through there, so they're making an impression of what they're going to see on the other side just coming in through that door. So consider that. Work with somebody that has resources. That's one of the things that we do. We have resources that can help us with those things and maybe give senior discounts, etc. Scott, talk to us about why it's important to caulk.
So, well, first off, if you're going to paint, you know, you always want to recaulk. It's a maintenance issue that all homeowners have to do. But caulking helps keep water penetration from entering the home. It actually looks a lot better when you have a nice bead of caulk rather than just some old caulk that's peeling. So it's always going to make sure you caulk all your windows and doors, anything that penetrates the home. You know, it'll keep critters out, ants. So caulking is very important in a house, and it's something pretty easy to do.
This particular slide that we have here, I would say that from the ground, looking up at the chimney, you may not be able to see that your chimney's in disrepair. We actually have a neighbor that lives next door to us, and he's got a 2-story home, but we can see the chimney from down below. And oh my goodness, I've worried for years that that thing is just going to disintegrate and fall over on our house. So those things are important. Why, Scott?
Well, again, as the heavy foliage, wood rot is conducive to termites and carpenter ants, and actually that bring them, you know, because that's what the termites. And then the chimney, now, first, if you don't see it from the ground, you definitely want an inspector that will walk the roof. And again, water penetration through the chimney, and you know, the chimney's higher, so you're going to have water damage on the ceiling. And, you know, if you don't pay attention to it or you don't see it, it could, a good 2 or 3 inch rain, and you can have a lot of damage in the house. So, wood rot is something you definitely want to take care of, and sooner the better.
Okay, and so is that what we're seeing here with the picture of the shutter as well?
Yeah, the shutter's wood rot as well. Yes.
Okay, I see over here where you could actually stick a screwdriver right through it.
Yeah, the other, I don't think if you did that on the other side, it'd probably fall apart.
Oh, wow, yeah. And John, anything in particular that you want to add to this as we move forward?
Yeah, 2 things. Number one, when a buyer sees that, they think they don't take care of the house. And next, your buyer's getting a loan. If they get an FHA or a VA loan, the appraiser's going to call it and require those repairs to be done, or they can't get a loan.
And speaking of VA is really strict when it comes to termite and WDIs. So if you had any kind of conducive conditions, they won't loan on it until it's fixed.
Yeah, and WDI, wood destroying insects?
Yeah, wood destroying insect report.
Yeah. So John, why is this important here on the windows?
Well, most of our clients, we recommend that they hire somebody to clean their windows. They can do it themselves, but we get ours done about once a year. It's, you know, depending on how big your house is, it's under $200 most of the time. And it makes a huge difference. I mean, when you can look out the window and it looks really clear, it lets more light in, which buyers like. They like lots of natural light. And again, they think this person takes care of their house. Also, a lot of times sometimes broken seals in windows, when they get foggy, it's hard to tell. And Scott probably has been there at times when he's wondering, is this a dirty window or is the seal broken? But broken seals are not a good thing either. The good news is you don't have to replace a whole window. You can get panes replaced on the double pane windows, and it's it's about maybe $125 to replace a broken seal window.
Right. You know, I know that for me, there's a lot of things that I can do well, but one of the things for me I don't do well is clean windows. Always streaking something. It's very frustrating. I've got an excellent window guy. If you're looking for somebody to come out, squeaky clean windows do amazing. So clean, you wouldn't know there was glass there. So what about this, John? This is a deck on someone's home. What's happened? What do we need to do with that?
Well, a lot of times you'll notice cedar fences. Now, we're not talking about rotten and falling apart, but they get discolored and poor looking. And a lot of times a pressure wash will make a huge difference. I've seen fences that look almost new after somebody pressure washed them. The other area where pressure wash, a lot of times siding on houses, especially white, painted white, in very humid climates, mildew grows on it and it looks dirty and dingy. And pressure wash will make it look like new. So those are good things to consider.
Oh my, somebody's got a great dog trainer here. I'll tell you, what's the story on this slide? What are we talking about here? It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, well, I'll comment. Picking up after your dog's important because buyers are walking around the outside as well as inspectors or anything. And you don't want them to step on a landmine and then be tracking it into your house. And yeah, I would like to find a dog trainer to train my dog to do that too.
Anything you want to add, Scott, or is that pretty much take care of it?
Well, that's pretty much it. It's just not very fun as an inspector to walk around the house and then step in, you know, a landmine. Remember, we have to walk all through your house. So if the inspector doesn't realize he stepped in one, which he may not, you know, you're going to have prints all over the carpets. And that's not fun either.
Yeah, that is not fun. Not to mention the fact that you're going to be carrying that smell with you the rest of the day.
Exactly.
Okay, so exterior cracks, we've kind of talked about some of these things when Scott talked about mortar and cracking, but here again, these are things that you probably are not looking at much. And John, how can we be helpful? How can a realtor be helpful in this situation?
When we talk to a homeowner about selling their house, we walk around and look for things like that. That's our job. Signs of foundation damage. And just because there's cracks in the mortar, it doesn't always mean that there's foundation, but it's a telltale sign that maybe you should have your foundation checked, as well as diagonal cracks in walls coming like that. Sometimes cracks in walls are just a bad seam if it's along a seam, but when they run diagonal, like over a door, it's usually movement in the house that causes that.
Right, right. Now, you know, when we've done this seminar live in the past, we've actually had our foundation expert as well as our roofing expert with us. But because we're doing it on Zoom, and it's more time for you to sit in front of your computer, and we know that a lot of you don't like that, nor do we all the time. What we have done is we have interviewed our roofer and two of our foundation experts. We will make the link available to you in an email after our seminar so that you can watch their videos in the comfort of your living room at your own time. So I want you to make sure and see that we'll have that for you. So here again, here's another situation where standing from the ground as a real estate professional, this is something that we would not necessarily see. And because our eyes are not, we're not experts, we wouldn't be able to tell if the roof is in good shape or not. Scott, what can you tell us about this?
So the picture on the left is wind damage is what it's from. It's just a strong wind. And then you have the shingles on the right sliding out of place. You know, when we look at the roof all the time, and I always get the question, oh, there's the roof's 10 years old, there's probably hail damage. And that's never or not always the case. And also, depending where you live in the Metroplex is, you know, some areas up north have more hail damage or more hailstorms than down in the south. Right. Just depends. But, you know, a roof is one of them top 5 items that, you know, a lot of people are worried about, and it can be pretty expensive to fix.
Boy, that's the truth. And we just had something like that on one of our properties, and you got to keep in mind you have homeowners insurance and your roof is insured, but that doesn't mean that the buyer that's going to be buying your house is going to use the same insurance company, usually not. And your roof needs to be insurable. And if things like this aren't addressed, it's probably not going to be. How about this, Scott? Talk to us about these.
So the picture, that's called a vent stack, the picture with the white pipe in it. And over time, that's a rubber vent stack, and over time that dry rots and it just kind of falls apart. And that's just age related, and it happens. Normally when you get your roof replaced, they replace them as well. But that's an older roof if you see that dry rot like that. The picture in the middle there, that's missing a flashing. So there's this, it's called sidewall flashing, and you can see to the left of it, the little white area, and then where the arrows are, it's missing. And that's something that an inspector will see on the roof. You would never see that from the ground. So that's why it's a good idea to get an inspector that jumps on the roof. And then the picture on the right, the flashing is just lifting. Honestly, normally on them corners, there's 2 little nails, and sometimes the nails pull loose, and sometimes you can go on the roof and just put a new nail in it. It'll go back down, and sometimes it won't. Again, when they replace the roof, if they needed it replaced, they will replace that flashing as well.
Okay, that's good to know.
Although I've seen them not do it, but.
And how about these branches? I mean,
So a couple things with the branches. If my rule of thumb is if you can touch the branches from the roof, it's too close. Even though the branches are not touching the roof like they are in the pictures, when it rains, they get heavy and they droop. And trees will do more damage to a roof than anything else. When it's windy and the wind's blowing, the trees will rip the roof apart.
kind of like having a broom sweeping
Right,
it all the time.
exactly. And again, for carpenter ants will crawl up the tree and then go in the house. So it's conducive to carpenter ants, to the wood destroying insect report as well. So it's never a good idea to have trees touching the roof, and you'd always want to trim them away from the roof. They will cause more damage than anything else to your roof.
We have, when our yard guy comes out, usually once or twice a year, if we've got limbs that are hanging over our roof, we usually have him clip them at that time so that we don't have to worry about that. Especially too, that when they break, you know, that's a good
Yeah.
opportunity for them to break and fall on the roof. Gutters. Okay, so now we're going to talk about gutters. John, what are we looking at there on that picture on the left?
Well, it's an inconvenient place to put an herb garden.
A what?
It's an inconvenient place to plant an herb garden.
Herb garden.
Yeah. Now, people don't realize how much dirt washes off their roof into the gutters. And so when gutters get full like that, they can't drain properly, and that can lead to other kinds of problems, like causing the fascia boards and that type of thing to start to rot. And so you need to maintain your gutters is the bottom line.
Yeah. Scott, how about this one over here on the right-hand side? What's happening there?
So what happens is when they get full, whether it's your herb garden or it's just dirt or granules from the roof, there's nowhere for the water to go. So the water just sits in the gutter and will eventually rot, the gutter will rust and cause big holes in it. And another another thing is when the gutters are dirty, water can back up and go back into the house. And a lot of times that's when you get fascia damage or water leaks, inside the house due to the gutters being dirty. It's always a good idea to keep your gutters clean.
Sometimes when you have to have your roof replaced, don't they also replace your gutters?
Yes, a lot of times they will.
Oh, that's good.
A lot of times if you get it replaced because of hail, there's hail damage on the gutter and they'll replace them as well, yes.
That's good. That's good to know. So we have another thing here, Scott, that you kind of talked about when there's leaking in the house. Tell us about this.
So again, water has to go somewhere. So if it leaks through the roof, whether it's through the gutter or bad flashing details or the roof structure or the roof covering, it's got to go somewhere in the house, and gravity, and the roof's always higher, so it always drips down onto the ceiling. And when you have water in the house and it stays active, it can produce mold. It can damage the ceiling. If it gets heavy enough, the sheetrock will actually fall off the ceiling because it's too heavy. And water stains can come from many items: HVAC equipment, roof leaks. So it's something that you should address before you put the house on the market.
Right, right. That's exactly right. So kind of moving forward now, important things we've talked about, some of the blemishes, some of the things that you want to try and get addressed before. The next thing that we always do when we get a house ready to put on the market is we do what we call a make ready. So we have people come in that are going to do the house cleaning for you, make your house spick and span, do the windows, wash the floors, that kind of thing. We have people that do that service for us, but if you have your own housekeeper, that's the time that you want to ask them to come in and do more than just a little dust and vacuum, but more along those lines. You want to make sure that your countertops are clean. No baby in the sink. Dishes are out of the sink, because here again, all of this that we're seeing on these pictures is the perception to the buyer that you're messy and that you are not attending. If you're not taking care of what's on the counter, you're not attending to other things as well. As you can see here, all of the pots in the windowsill, things sitting around the sink. Well, this is the time that you want to keep things really tidy. Over here on top of the toilet, We've got things that may be important to you, but there are also things that now the inspector's going to have to take that off so that he can look inside that toilet and make sure it's running properly. And there's going to be always room for something to fall and break. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Well, that looks like an angel up there. I don't think I'd want an angel looking at my backside.
Thank you, John. Here again, I've seen this before in houses that we've had, look at all the leaves that are out there around the air conditioner or HVAC. That makes it hard for them to run efficiently. You're going to get, somebody's going to write you up on that, and you want to get that done. Buyer's going to think you're not taking good care of it, and they're probably going to ask for new air conditioners. Or the breaker box, you want to make sure that they have access to it, that someone like Scott can get in there, whether it's in your closet, depending upon how old your house is, or is it on the outside of the house? If it's got a lock on it, it needs to be unlocked. Your hot water heater, if it's sitting in the garage, he needs access to it. So you need to make sure that you're moving things around so that he has access to it. Same thing like we're looking at here. He's got to be able to get into the garage to make sure that the garage door is working properly, or that he can get into the attic and he can check out the system up there, that the crawl space has access. And he's also looking at things like the rafters, right, Scott?
Yeah, I'm looking at everything in the attic.
Yeah.
Yep, rafters, HVAC units, plumbing lines, gas lines. So, access is something that an inspector really needs.
Right. So, as John mentioned earlier, if you're thinking about doing something in the next couple of years, these are little projects that we can do or have somebody come over and do for us while we're cooped up and having to stay in the house right now. Here we've got a little tip here. Hang in there with us. Don't forget, we're going to have door prizes and drawings coming up. We want to make sure all the rooms are as clean as possible. They're not expecting to come into a house that is just magnificently, spectacularly clean, but just keeping in mind access to the closets, being able to walk through a room, look at the walls, etc. That's important to your inspector. Securing your pets. Boy, that's a big deal. John, you tell us why that's important as a realtor, and Scott, then you tell us why it's important as an inspector.
Well, some people are really scared of animals, and especially dogs, if they're running and roaming. They could be the nicest dog in the world and not bother anybody, but it would freak people out. And sometimes they tend to, bark to greet people, and they don't know whether it's an aggressive dog or not. Sometimes we've gotten showing instructions that say, make sure not to let the cat out. Well, that's a lot of pressure on a buyer and their agent, hoping that when they open the door, the cat doesn't sneak out. So keep them in a kennel is the advice I have.
Mm-hmm. And Scott, for you?
Yeah, dogs sometimes act completely different when their owners aren't home. So they may be friendly when the seller's there, but when they're not, sometimes they're not that friendly. I've chased a cat down the street more than once, and it's not very fun. But you kind of run, well, what if you leave the cat out? Do you have to go get it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a good idea for the pets to be out of the home. It makes for a lot easier inspection. It makes everybody more comfortable that they're not there. And it's something that the inspector doesn't have to worry about, because the more they have to worry about, the longer it takes.
That's right. That's right. So, and like you said, maybe not so much out of the home, but at least in a crate.
Right.
Where they're safe, and as you are as well. We want to move on now. We're getting closer to the end of our seminar today, and we want to talk about when do you hire somebody and when do you not. So, the list that we have here, what's important is if you're going to be planning on making some repairs, have a budget. We always want to know what your budget is so that when we're helping you with a contractor, we can tell them, example, they've got $2,000 that they want to spend. What can we do for that? What's going to give them the biggest pop for $2,000, if that's what it is? Use contractors that know their stuff. And we talked about that in our seminar called Aging in the Right Place. You want somebody that does that as a profession, not as a hobby. Make sure, like we talked about, that your house is accessible so they can do what they need to do. And don't attempt to do the repairs yourself unless you know what you're doing. Keeping in mind, before your house goes on the market to sell, there are things that you can do and you can save the receipts. But once your house is on the market and you get a contract on it from a buyer, you can change a light bulb, but other things, electrical, plumbing, etc., are things that are going to require a professional and a receipt. Did I miss anything, Scott?
No,
Probably not.
no.
So I'm going to move on then to the next one. So the next one is do it yourself or hire a pro. So as we look at this list that we have here, possible do it yourself, DIY, or projects for professionals, it's pretty clear there which ones you would want to use a professional on. John, did you want to add anything to that?
Just simple as replacing light bulbs. I mean, when Scott inspects a house and he flips a switch, the light doesn't work, he doesn't really go to see if it's a defective light bulb. He just writes, sorry to speak for you, Scott, but most inspectors, it's not their job to determine if the light bulb's out or if it's the switch that's the problem or the lamp or light fixture. Also, you know, we see this all the time. People have missing bulbs in their bathroom lights, especially if they've got one of those multi-bulb fixtures and things. It looks poor. HVAC filters, you know, especially in the return air, people are walking through and they see, you know, the dirt piled up on that because people haven't changed the filters. It's just something that looks like it's either taken care of or not.
Right. And this list that we have here, remember that we will have this again for you afterwards in a recording. We'll give you some ideas as well. And if you're wanting something more specific that you could have printed out, please ask us for that and we'll make that available to you. John briefly talked to us about the painting.
Well, again, paint does wonders and it's pretty inexpensive. On the left, you want to try to use a neutral shade. The hot color now for walls is called agreeable gray for y'all out there. Look for agreeable
gray.
And then, you know, a lot of kids like their bedrooms painted like that, but you might want to consider repainting them to more neutral. And there was a time, you know, 10 years ago when red dining rooms were really in, but they're not so much in anymore. So.
Yep. Right. Well, we always like to say paint's cheap when it comes to whether or not somebody's going to make an offer on your house or not. Scott, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide. What's up with that now?
So smoke detectors now under today's code, there has to be one in every bedroom and every adjoining hallway. They don't need to be in kitchens, family rooms, living rooms. And then let's say you have all the bedrooms upstairs, there needs to be just one smoke alarm downstairs.
Oh.
Yeah, so you have to have them in every bedroom and every adjoining hallway. You know, if you start hearing a smoke alarm beep, you know, the one that wakes you up at 2 in the morning, it's a good idea to change the batteries. And a lot of people just pull the batteries out to stop it from beeping, but you know, that's not very safe for yourself. And then as an inspector, we'll see it and write it up in the report. And remember, this is something easy that can be taken care of, and it doesn't go in the report. And then carbon monoxide alarms, all new houses now, the smoke detectors are mixed with carbon monoxide alarms, so they're mixed. But as an older house, you can just buy one that plugs into the wall, and as an inspector, that's good. That's good.
That's good. I was going to ask you about that because I've seen that in a lot of older homes. And how about pilot lights? You mentioned something to us earlier about the age of the home.
So for an inspector, pilot lights, as an inspector, we are not required to light a pilot light. So if your water heater or you have an older home and the stove has a pilot light and it's not lit, as an inspector, I can write up that it's not working. You know, now most inspectors will try to light them, but it is a good idea to light the pilot lights. It just takes longer as an inspector when we're there to try to light them. And it just looks better if the buyer, you know, gets there and gets to the stove before us and want to turn it on. They don't turn it on and, you know, it doesn't work for them. Also, especially with the stove, if you turn the stove on, the pilot light's not lit, you're leaking gas in the house.
Oh, yeah, that's scary. That's scary. So that's that type of repair. If you know that your pilot light is not working, is that something that you call a plumber for, or who comes out to do that?
Yeah, a plumber or handyman.
Okay.
Most new appliances, you know, as in the new heaters, new stoves, they don't have pilot lights anymore. They have electronic ignite, so it's nothing to worry about.
Okay.
Water heaters do still have pilot lights, but you know, they rarely go out unless for some reason the gas went out at the house.
Okay.
But
Okay.
you know, with a water heater, you know if your pilot light's lit if you have hot water.
Okay, okay. So I'm just going to just kind of briefly go over this one here. These are things that, Scott, that you're looking for when if you've run into the wall in the garage with your car, he's going to be identifying that. If there's a crack in the doorway there, diagonal crack, that's going to be something he's looking at. He's looking at leaky faucets. Would you agree, right here in this area where the washer used to be?
Yes.
And probably mold maybe
Mold.
there and behind the wall. How about the things that we're seeing in this screen? Scott, what do you think about that?
So windows, you know, first of all, you always want your windows operable for reasons of egress. If there's a fire in the house and all your windows are screwed shut, you really can't get out. Now, I do know on the older homes, you know, they typically paint the windows shut.
Yeah.
And it's not a good idea because, like I said, for signs of egress, if you have to get out for some reason, you can't. So that's more of a safety item, but it is a good idea to make all windows operable. GFCI and AFCI, GFCI outlets are the ones with a test and reset button like this one, but it's never a good idea to stick a fork in an outlet to try to make a connection.
I would never even think of that.
At least they use plastic so they can hold the fork.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And the last one here?
Yep, doorknobs. You want to make sure all the doorknobs latch and close and the doorknob opens properly and opens smoothly. You know, you don't want to have to kick the door open to open and close it.
Especially if your windows are screwed shut.
Exactly. And you know, and if your door sticks a little bit, it doesn't necessarily mean there's foundation issues. I know a lot of people worry about that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that.
Just means it's humid that day sometimes.
Right.
Hey, Ingrid, on windows opening and closing, appraisers on an FHA inspection are supposed to check the bedroom windows to make sure they open. That's one of the items on their checklist.
Yes. Thank you, John. I appreciate you adding that. So Scott, we're here at the heater.
So, you know, it's the HVAC unit. So in there you have the heater and the indoor coils, which is part of the air conditioner system. And it's always a good idea to, you know, have the unit serviced before the inspection. Mark the date if you've had it changed. Buyers like to know. They always ask what date the unit is and how old it is. Change the air filter. You know, if you put a clean air filter in there, sometimes your air conditioner will cool way better just by an air filter. And then as it on the report, when we check it, if it's cooling good, we say the unit's okay rather than it needs to be serviced. And it can save you money in the long run for just changing the air filter.
Good point. Good point. John, anything to add?
No, pretty much. I mean, if you have your HVAC serviced a couple times a year, that's good records to keep. Buyers love that. It shows you're taking care of your house.
Yeah. Save your receipts. That's always a good selling point because you can show that you've been taking care of it. So we're coming up here on the last couple of slides, and this is something I wanted to make a comment on, and I know that it's important to Scott as well. Some people say, well, I'm moving out of my house. Why do I need to leave my utilities on? I don't want the air conditioner running, or I don't need somebody leaving the lights on in there, or I don't need to water my yard anymore. It's really, really important that you leave everything on until you close on your property. Scott's going to be needing to operate your house, turn the air conditioner on, turn the heat on, turn the dishwasher on, flush the toilets. The inspector, the appraiser is going to want to do the same thing. And if you turn those off, it makes it difficult for them to perform their job, meaning that they're probably going to have to come back and do it over again. And somebody's going to have to pay for their time. Right, Scott?
Yes, utilities on is very important. I mean, you can't do, if the gas is off, you can't check the water heater and heater if there's gas. You remember there's a fireplace, a cooktop. And you want to make sure there's access to the all mechanical systems, attics, garages. It just makes it easier for the inspector to do his job, and it makes it easier for the buyer to look around. And then, the seller being there. And I know we're in a different time with COVID, and I know everybody wants to be safe. So you're seeing more and more sellers home, but it's always a good idea as a seller to leave. It doesn't bother the inspector much, but it's very uncomfortable for the buyer to be there and the seller be there as well.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So
that's true. So, as we come to a close of our seminar today and the wrap up, Scott, often we've talked about through this today, we've talked about what buyers are looking for and what happens in an inspection and how a real estate agent is positioned there. But could or should a seller consider doing a home inspection prior to putting their house on the market? And if they did, why would that benefit them?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. It's a pre-listing inspection, so you would do it before you put your house on the market. It helps you fill out your seller's disclosure, because as an inspection will tell you the age of all your mechanical systems, so your water heaters, your HVAC units, so your heating and air conditioning. It's also something that you could go ahead and repair before before you put it on the market. And then you have receipts if you save them, and that looks better in the buyer's eyes to know that you've repaired it and it's been repaired properly with a professional. You can take negotiations off the table because you've already fixed it. And it makes everything smoother, knowing that anything big that the inspector is going to find has already been taken care of before the inspector comes through. And if you do a pre-listing, you probably will get another buyer's inspection as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind.
John, did you want to add anything to what Scott had to say?
Well, the seller's home warranty, we recommend that our sellers consider that. Basically, if it doesn't cost you anything unless you have to use it, then it's $75 per call, and we've saved our clients lots of money when we get an inspection report that says the air conditioner is not cooling to specified temperatures. There has to be a range between the outside temperature and the inside temperature. It saved them money. Or one of those faucets or drains that aren't working properly, we can get a home warranty call on it, and it costs you next to nothing and can save you hundreds, maybe even a couple $1,000.
Or a deal altogether. Could save you a deal. We have a house we're getting ready to put on the market right now, and we were in there yesterday meeting our estate liquidator, and it was toasty in there. And as it turns out, they haven't lived in their house for 3 or 4 weeks, and their air conditioner's going out. So when a buyer walks in to look at a house and it's really hot, especially this time of year, first thing they think is, oh my gosh, the air conditioner doesn't work. And the seller's never going to get us a new one. Let's look at something else. So having that home warranty makes a big difference. Well, okay, so what we're learning here today as we sum this up is spending a little time making repairs and a few dollars before the house goes on the market can return thousands to you, because your house shows well, it feels well, somebody's ready to do something because they know you've taken good care of it. Having the house spend much less time on the market. We're experiencing a shortage of inventory in the market right now. There's buyers out there that are looking, and they can't find anything. And the interest rates are amazing for buyers right now. So if you do the things that we talked about today, it's going to give you an opportunity to get a better price in a quicker amount of time. So our presenters today, we're getting ready to have our drawing here in just a moment. But again, I'm Ingrid Sullivan with Senior Downsizing Experts, providing the Smart Senior series for you today. Our expert contributors is John Sullivan. He's our realtor that gave us a different point of view. And then we have Scott Lewis with A-Action Inspection Services. And we will have information available to you for both people if you have questions. going forward. We couldn't have done any of these things that we've been doing over the last couple of years if it wasn't for our sponsors. And we want to make sure and make you aware of them. They play a big part in the content and the things that we deliver. Debbie, are there any sponsors with us today that want to say something quickly?
Yeah, Bertha is here. Bertha, do you want to go ahead and take a minute?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Bertha, and I'm with Dignity Memorial, and I plan funeral, cremations, and cemetery property, and would like the opportunity to speak with you about your needs and to let you know that I'm with Dignity. Dignity is the largest provider in North America. We have 33 locations in DFW. So please give me a call, even if you've already done some pre-planning. Sometimes it's good just to have somebody look over what you've already completed. It doesn't cost you anything for additional information. I'm able to do virtual, or I can meet you at one of our cemeteries and funeral homes. So just let me know. Again, my name is Bertha with Dignity Memorial. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertha. Thank you. Several of the people that we have listed here, Debbie, is there anybody else with us?
Debbie was with us, but I think she had to leave. Robin is here.
Okay.
Robin, you want to say a word?
Sure, absolutely. First off, thank you guys for today. It was very informative, very interesting from my own perspective as a homeowner. We provide over public title. I do sales and marketing for Arlington and Mansfield, and we provide settlement services. So when you work with us and you work with Ingrid, Kim Moore is actually the closer in our Arlington office. During COVID, we've done a lot more of the mobile notaries than we might have done in the past. We're doing everything we can to have closings in our office if people are comfortable with that. But we certainly go out to your home and we provide mobile notary services if it's necessary and can do that for you. So anyway, we are happy to be sponsors. Love what you guys are doing, Ingrid, and thank you for the opportunity today to be a part of this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. John and I have greatly benefited from the services that you have provided for our clients and taken such good care of them. As a matter of fact, all of the people that you're seeing here, we have used several of these people for our own services as well. John's mom started out at Brookdale. The Davidsons have put together our trust for our family. Dependable Packers, they are amazing in helping our clients pack when they're getting ready to make a move. The Viridian Elements, you guys, I'm looking so forward to having you back there again. Hopefully before the end of the year. They have a beautiful venue for us to have our Smart Senior seminars, and the Viridian Elements is a great place. It's a 55 plus community that is actually involved out there with the Viridian, which is a multi-generational community. So you'll have to check that out. And David Leslie is also with Mutual of Omaha. He is a great partner of ours, and he can help you get the right type of financing for aging in place or buying a new home. What I want to say that's important for you to know is that we have been taking the time to put together interviews with all of our sponsors. You can find those interviews from them in particular, along with their business cards, at this place. Be sure to write this down: smartseniorseries.com. smartseniorseries.com. We'll include that in an email to you as well. Debbie, anything you wanted to add to that?
I dropped all of their contact information into the chat as well, so people can find their phone numbers and a link to our website there.
Great, great. All the other interviews will be there as well. So are we ready? Those of you that have stayed with us, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ingrid,
We appreciate that.
Ingrid,
Yeah.
there's a couple questions in chat.
We're going to questions next.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and do questions now?
Yep. We have a couple questions in chat. Let's go ahead and take care of those real quick, and then we will spin the wheel for our prizes.
Well,
Okay, Susan had a couple of questions. She said, our HVAC system is original, as far as I know, to the home built in 1986. It works, and most other things have been updated. Do I need to update HVAC? If not, how does it affect the pricing?
Well, I can say that the main concern people are going to have is it uses the old Freon system, and that's a big concern to people about getting Freon replaced in the older units. You know, and so that's the biggest concern that a buyer is going to have. It may be good to consider that as well.
What else?
Yeah.
Susan also.
Sorry.
Hey, Scott wanted to contribute to that.
I'm gonna say most HVAC systems, you know, have a 15-year life expectancy, so it's over that. But if it's, you know, I'm the type of person, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But the R22 Freon, you know, is older and they're no longer making it. So as the years go on, it's going to be harder and harder to get, and you can't use the new Freon in an old system. Yeah. So the buyers are going to see that and really, you know, probably want a new unit or consider another house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. She also asked how important are windows. Hers are original and some don't work well. Some have broken seals and condensation. Not horrific, but not perfect.
You know, broken windows, it's more or less the way they look. You know, if you have a window that's been broken for a while, the condensation gets, and then it gets, you know, turned white and you can't see out of it. You know, you do lose a little bit of energy efficiency, and it just depends on, you know, how bad they look. Every window goes bad. There's no window that's ever not going to lose their seal. And that's just kind of the life of a window.
Yeah.
It depends on how many you have, and you know, some of them it's hard to tell. There's not, but some of them you can barely see out of them. They look really bad, and that's a turn off to buyers. And like I said, you can get them replaced fairly inexpensively.
Yep.
You know, I think it's about $125 per window to replace the pane. So.
Yep. We have some, contact us, Suzanne. We've got some window people that we can share with you that can help you with the replacement of the glasses necessary. I wanted to add one thing. If the window is kind of foggy, but you could still see out of it, that is usually not something, it's the buyer wants them all to be clear, but that's not usually something that's going to keep them from getting a loan. On the other hand, if it's cracked or it's got a BB hole through it or something like that, it's going to have to be replaced. What's our next question?
Diana has her hand up. So Diana, if you want to unmute, you can ask your question.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, a couple of questions. I missed whether carbon monoxide detectors do they need to be in every bedroom and attached hallway as well, or is it just the smoke detectors?
Just the smoke detectors. Carbon monoxide, you really just need one in the house, is what code states.
That's good to know.
But you know, they're mixing it right now. When you buy them, they come on a smoke detector, so people put them in every room. But the truth about carbon monoxide, it's a heavy gas. So I don't really like them on the smoke detector, because if you don't have any air circulation in the house, it's a 70-degree day, you don't have any fans on, carbon monoxide will stay low and won't even get it's high enough for the smoke detector to go off. So that's why it's a good idea to buy the ones that plug into the wall.
Oh, because they're closer to the floor. That's good.
Right. If you and we're required to report it, even if you have an electric house but you have an attached garage, they want us to report it. But you know, if you don't have an attached garage and you just have electric appliances, you won't have carbon monoxide in the house.
Okay.
Well, we have a gas water heater and a gas. What's the other gas thing? Gas water heater and gas for the house. So and an attached garage, and the water heater is in the garage. So I would need one for the garage.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea to put. I wouldn't put it in the garage. I would put it in the house.
Mhm.
like
Okay.
not close to the garage door, you know, close to the
Mhm.
garage entry door, but I would put it in the house. I wouldn't put it in the garage.
Okay. I have kind of a cosmetic question. How important is it to paint original wood paneling? This house has a lot of dark wood paneling from the 70s. And it's my understanding that people are not too into that. Is that something that's going to affect an offer on a house? Would it be better to paint it, or is it okay just to leave it alone?
I lean to say paint it, and it, you know, I, 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 I like to look at the overall house and how it shows, and then we look at, you know, well, who are you competing against? What houses are near you, and what level have they updated, or do they all have paneling? There's a lot of things, but I lean towards saying painting it is usually better because it's not very popular. I was at a house today that had the old, really dark paneling and not the hand finished oak or something like that. And I know that won't go over.
Yeah. Diana,
Yes.
having been in your house, I would tell you that it will even make your house look bigger. Which is why people do it, bigger and brighter.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you.
Right. Okay. I think that's it.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Thank you. It was very interesting.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Feel free to give us a call if you have any questions about the seminar that we didn't get taken care of today because they came up later. Please feel free to call us. We are eager to help you out in any way we can.
Mark can have it.